These are the ingredients that I am using to cook my neck bones. I'm going to be using onion, garlic, smoked paprika, adobo seasoning, diced tomatoes and green chilies, tomato sauce, and whole peeled tomatoes. I am also going to be adding corn on the cob as well as small potatoes. So I have bought 2 packs of these neck bones at Walmart, and I know everybody cleans their neck bones differently. This is the way that I clean mine. But what I like to do sometimes is boil it, like bring the neck bones to a boil in just plain water. And then once it boils for around 5 minutes, pour off that water and then add more water and add my seasonings at that point. I am just adding my water and I'm going to fill it up to cover the meat. And then I'll just boil this on high for about 5 minutes, and then, like I said before, I'll pour off that water and add fresh water, and I'll at that point add all of my seasonings. So now I'm just gonna drain this water off. And you don't have to do this. It's just a personal preference sometimes that I like to do. Now I'm adding my peeled tomatoes, whole peeled tomatoes. You just dump that in there with the tomato juice. We're gonna add our diced tomatoes and chilies, and we're adding the whole can. And you want to add your additions before you add your water, so that way you know how much water to add and it don't be more than what you really wanted to. Because if you put your water in first, then add this, it's probably going to be way too much liquid than what you wanted. And so now I'm adding the can of tomato sauce. And then we add a little bit of water to the sauce because we don't want to waste anything. You add a little bit of water, swish it around in the can so you don't waste none of it. At this point, we will add our seasoning. This right here is smoked paprika. I don't measure nothing, so I just go by sight. I've been cooking for a long time, and just some things I don't need to measure. I go strictly by sight. So that's the smoked paprika. I'm gonna add a tad more. I'm gonna add my garlic. Now I don't use a lot of garlic. Well, that might be considered a lot, but since it's such a big amount. And then we want to add our onion powder or granulated onion. To me, it's kind of granulated onion is just a onion powder that's not ground up real fine. So I'm gonna add a lot of that because I like that onion flavor in it, since I didn't cut up any onions. And then we're gonna add our seasoning salt. And I'm gonna put probably a full cap full of this in it. So I added a capful because you, in a way, you want to over season it. Hopefully that makes sense, because you're adding liquid. You're gonna add water to it, and you know water will kind of drown out the salt taste. Now we're adding our water, and then when it's almost done cooking, we'll add our corn and the potatoes. The corn will be added last, since it won't take as long as the potatoes. See what I mean by, if you would have added the water first, then you would have had too much, because you only want to just cover it. You don't want to drown it, you just want it covered. And then we'll turn our burner on. And you're gonna let this cook about 2.5 to 3 hours. I like mine really, really tender, like fall off the bone tender. So I'll probably cook it more closer to 3 hours. So I'm gonna set my timer to 3 hours. And then I'll come in and give it a stir periodically. And I'm gonna give it a stir now. So I'm giving this a nice little stir. It's been cooking for about 2.5 hours, and it's pretty much where the meat is falling off the bones. Really tender. And you know, we had added the Rotel diced chili and tomatoes, as well as some whole tomatoes that you see here throughout it, as well as tomato sauce, and then filled it the rest of the way with water. Now I'm gonna add my potatoes, and then I'm gonna add my corn. It won't take very long for the corn to cook, so that will be added last. So now we're gonna add our potatoes. And I had got some baby potatoes, and as you can see, they're different colors. Like this is red, this is sort of a goldish kind of color, and then this one's kind of in between. So we're gonna add all of these, and we'll give it a stir. And as I said before, our corn will add last. We'll let that cook a few minutes, let it get nice and soft. Then we'll add our corn, and then we'll plate it up. It's now time to add our corn, and I'm using frozen corn on the cob. And we'll just kind of push that down into the gravy, juice, broth, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll just let that cook. So it is done, and it smells delicious. And this is it all plated up, and all I need to do is just add a little bit of this gravy or broth or whatever you want to call it over it.